You're here. Hey, hello, how are you? Are you a developer, solar or wind, looking to source new project? Or maybe an investor, you want to invest your money into project, or maybe as well a supplier, so you have a new product, for example, a new storage system, and you're looking to sell it into the African continent, and you all been struggling? I have a good news for you, my friends. In this video, I'm going to give you 5 steps to follow to make sure that you do it right. So you want to stay tuned. Hello again, and welcome to Renewables in Africa channel. So who am I? You know me by now. My name is Tony Tio, the founder and CEO of Renewables in Africa, your Africa clean energy champion. What is the channel about? Very simple. We're all about demystifying the renewable energy sector for you and raise your technical awareness. This way, you can better understand it and make better decisions. You like what we're doing? I knew that anyway. Excellent. So I want you then to make sure that you subscribe to our channel, you like the video, and you leave a comment down below. And the great thing about it is, by doing it, you get a chance to win 1 hour of free advice with me, and I'll be delighted to serve you. So I see you soon. Hey, why did I do this video? Well, very simple. Over the last few years and also more recently, weeks, I've always had lots of people coming to me, for example, investors, so asking me, how can I find the right project to invest in Africa? Or maybe some project developers telling me, I've done solar farm in different parts of the world, right? I've done it in Mexico, I've done it in Europe, I've done it in Asia. So how can I make sure that I can break into the continent? Or maybe wind as well. Same story. And even more recently, I've had a number of storage suppliers coming to me and say, I've developed a new technology. Forget about lead acid, forget about lithium ion. So how can I make sure that I get people in the African market to discover this fantastic new technology that we have? This is what this video is all about. I'm here to give you those 5 rules, very important, because I want to make sure that I can turn you, like this man, to be a happy guy, right? So listen to it very carefully. So what is the first rule? So let's talk about it. First of all, you need to develop a very good knowledge of the African market. It would really be a little bit silly, let's put it that way, right? Just to step into the market without understanding what it's all about. The African continent, just to give you an idea, has an electrification rate of about 54%. And you can see how it is split between the urban and the rural areas. In a nutshell, you have a lot more electrification rate in the urban areas. We're talking about cities compared to villages in the rural areas. And out of those 245 gigawatts of power, 50 are actually from renewable energy, right? And you may be thinking, this is not a lot, right? But that's already up from what we had in 2010, right? Which was 28 gigawatts. And most of those 50 gigawatts actually come from hydropower, right? Important for you to know. Then another question. You may be thinking, okay, what's coming up? So when we're looking at the pipeline, okay, those projections were done a couple of years ago. Obviously, COVID will change a number of things, but still, you need to know that we're talking about roughly about 1.2 gigawatt that will come online. Now, the question becomes, what does that represent, that 1.2 gigawatts? Well, I'll tell you, if you know a little bit about nuclear power, for example, a small nuclear power plant would be around 1 gigawatt. Again, you may be asking, what does that mean? It means that that's the type of power that you can use maybe, right, to provide electricity to roughly about between 800,000 to 1 million people. It gives you an idea. Excellent. And also, you may have heard about scaling solar, which is another big program that's all about fast tracking utility scale solar into the continent. And with this big program that is supported by the World Bank, right, through the IFC, which is a private sector arm of the World Bank, and also many other organizations, they were able to leverage their influence and make sure that we can bring low tariff into the continent, because it's all about the money. So how much am I going to pay for my electricity? Well, with a scaling solar program, you can bring in that up to about $5 per kilowatt hour. Does it give you an idea? Great. So obviously there are a lot more information that you can get from the continent, but at least this is some of it. This is what we're saying. The rule number one, it's about understanding your markets. What is the rule number two? Let's find out. It's all about establishing your priorities and your expectation, guys. Very important, right? Just to give you an idea, the solar sector, we can divide it in 3 subsectors. I just made it simple, right? You have the utility scale. Those are the big bits that you are seeing, the 10 megawatt, the 20 megawatt, 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth, 100 megawatt that you're seeing. You have mini grid and also the off-grid market, right? That's a lot more reduced, right? And then you have the commercial and industrial, which is essentially providing power to private sector companies, right? So the question becomes, which one is suitable for you? You have to decide as per your priority. So that's very important for you. Another question is, what market are you going to be stepping into? And what market are you looking for? Because markets are not the same. Are you going to favor either stability or growth potential? If that doesn't resonate for you, let me just say it in other words. Would you prefer to go for RDC or Benin? Not the same thing. RDC have lots of potential, but maybe not as stable than Benin, which is a smaller country, but it's very good. This is what you need to decide as an investor, as a developer, as a supplier, and also what kind of strategy and currencies are you going to be using? Are you only interested in dealing in dollar, in euros, in pound, in other words, in hard currencies? Or are you able to deal with local currencies as well? Because people on the ground, clearly, they will want to sign agreement in their local currencies, right? One thing that you may want to know, if you are looking to get a sovereign guarantee, it's becoming more and more difficult, my friend, right? So pay attention to that. And also, ultimately, what is your risk appetite? Because everybody's telling me, hey, I want to go for shovel-ready project. But guess what? If everybody wants the same thing, it's going to be clogged there. So would you accept to take a little bit more risk? So going and taking project from the development stage, that could be a strategy that works, but it's up to you to decide. Ultimately, if you don't define those priorities, then you're going to have a flow strategy. So it's very, very important to make sure that you get this step right. Okay? Excellent. Let's carry on with the rule number 3. Okay? So the number 3 is obviously to screen and capture opportunities, right? What system and approach do you have in place for you to generate, to source those leads? Are you only referring to your desktop research that you are making? Or maybe you can do some field work because you have some people locally on the ground, or you're only relying on referrals. What are you doing? It's important for you to understand. And the question also is, if you have local people, basically local network, how effective are you, right? How do you make sure that you can target the region that where you want to go? And do you have people in all those regions that you are targeting? This is something that you want to make sure that you're establishing properly. And what kind of relationship do you have in place? Because clearly you will need relationship in any country from the grassroots all the way to the highest authority in the land. Because this is how progress is made, right? Because there's a lot of gatekeepers at every level. So you want to make sure that you have the right relationship in place in a country to make sure that you can move things going upward, right? Very important. And also, do you understand what culture you go into? I'm not asking you whether you immerse, because to be immersed into a culture, right? So you got to be living into the country. But do you at least have that understanding? Maybe you're working with the right people that can tell you what is the particularities of those cultures, right? Very good for you to understand that. Because if you don't do that, and also if you don't work with professional people, you're going to end up with results that you do not want. And clearly, this is what we want to avoid for you. Okay? Excellent. Now, let's make progress in our approach, right? So the fourth rule is about verification and due diligence. Once you are very clear into your mind to which project you want to go for, whether it's a mini grid, it's a CNI, or maybe utility scale, the question becomes, how do you make sure that you do your verification and due diligence? Because I'm sure you're going to have projects that you would have sourced yourself, or maybe you would have been given by some other people, referrals, whatever. So how do you do your verification? Are you doing it remotely, or are you doing it locally as well? So do you have people that can support you? These are questions you want to ask yourself. And also, as you're talking about the project, which aspect of the project do you verify? And do you have capabilities to do a full sweep verification of the entire value chain? That's a question that I like you to ask yourself, because it's very important, right? And also, what kind of time frame and budget would you allocate to this? So our advice would be, if you don't have the right resources to carry that out, make sure that you seek support. Very, very important. You may be wanting, obviously, to preserve and to limit the cost that you're putting into it. But if you don't do that well, you're going to end up with the wrong project. And if you end up with the wrong projects, this is millions that you are losing. Okay? So make sure that you do that well. What is the last rules that we are having? It's about confirming the project that you got. Very important. You want to check that this project is in line with your expectation. Very important. And if it's a case, make sure that you move on and go on with implementation. Because once you get to some momentum, you want to accelerate. Why am I saying that? Because I can promise you, when you have a very good project, unless you have originated that yourself, right? If it's a project that you have been sourcing, you can be sure many other people are looking at it as well. So you want to take advantage and just move fast if you've done the 5 other rules, the 5 other steps that we've given you. Is it okay? Excellent. I usually will get this question in the end. Should we be using business development managers internally or external consultant to source your project? Well, listen, the answer is entirely up to you. All I can say to give you an element of response is that if internally you have the people that can provide you services that covers all those rules that I've mentioned to you, you don't need external people. However, if you don't, if you are a new player, a smaller player, or you simply don't have the capabilities to do a proper due diligence, to properly source project, to properly make sure that you can engage with people, then it may be cost effective for you to make sure that you seek for external help. And there are many organizations that can help you do that. Correct? I just wanted to give you those 5 rules so you properly understand what it's all about to source the right project in the beautiful continent of Africa. Is it clear? Great. So, developing a good understanding of the market. This is your rule number 1. You want to set up your priorities and your expectation. This is your rule number 2. You want to make sure that you screen and look at opportunities. That's your rule number 3. You want to have a system in place to verify and conduct due diligence. That's your rule number 4. And number 5, right? You want to make sure that you confirm the project you are interested in. These are the 5 rules, my friend, that you need to have in place to make sure that you source the project that are good for you and you can take advantage of the beautiful African market. Now that you have a structured method to source projects, to invest into them, or to bring your product or service into the continent, what are you going to do? Three things. I want you to review those 5 rules to make sure that you understand them, but also to apply it. It's all about taking action. I will hate for you to just keep on doing the same thing and not being satisfied and losing money, because our interest is for all of you to succeed. Because if you succeed, we succeed. So let's work together. Okay? Great. This is Tony to you from Renewables in Africa. And all that is left for me to say is, may the sun be with you. Get better.